We are about to begin. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome. Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour et bienvenue. On behalf of the Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce, I would like to welcome you all to the panel discussion on Pakistan's mineral sector. My name is Daniel Gatta, and I will be your MC for the afternoon. I would like to first acknowledge the presence of the Consul General of Pakistan in Toronto, Imran Ali, and Akbar Adil Shah from the Consulate of Pakistan in Toronto. So CPCoC recently participated in a mining conference held in Pakistan between October 12th and the 19th. The Canadian delegates got an opportunity to meet government officials and stakeholders. The Canadian High Commissioner to Pakistan, His Excellency Greg Jokas, hosted the delegates at his residence. In attendance were key government officials and members of the mining community. The official conference began on Monday, October 15th, and delegates were hosted at the Canadian High Commission, where Senior Trade Commissioner John Goswell delivered a briefing on Afghanistan and Pakistan's mining sector. This was followed by a briefing by the Government of Pakistan's Board of Investment, followed by a presentation from the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Resources, as well as a visit to Pakistan Mineral Development Corporation. The first day concluded with a dinner hosted by Minister and Senator Salim Mandewala, where delegates enjoyed a casual evening overlooking the Islamabad skyline. On day two, there were the provincial presentations. The secretaries and directors general of mines were able to present the opportunities and challenges of the respective provinces. Delegates there shared their insight and knowledge. Following the discussion, the remainder of the day was spent in business-to-business meetings. On the third day, delegates arrived in Lahore, where the Punjab Board of Investment and Ministry of Mines delivered a presentation. On day four, delegates arrived in Karachi to get a briefing on the financial side of the mining sector and Coal Board Authority. And this concluded the official trip to Pakistan. I will now briefly introduce the panel that we have here today. We have Mehreen Javed, the President of the Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce. Mehreen is a Canadian of Pakistani origin who has been the leading force behind the creation of CPCoC. With her strong political and business knowledge, she has been able to bring together key players in both Canada and Pakistan to help promote economic growth in both countries. We also have Mr. Steve Vaughan, who is a partner at Heenan Blakey LLP. Mr. Vaughan has been practicing law for over 4 decades and has established himself as a leading expert on mining and natural resources law, having been recognized in a number of legal industry journals as one of Canada's foremost experts on mining law. He has advised and represented Canadian and international companies and has been involved with natural resource extraction in 65 countries, as well as serving on a number of governmental advisory committees. We also have Mr. Feroz Ashraf, who is currently Senior Advisor to the Office of the President at SNC-Lavalin Group, Inc. He was formerly Executive Vice President of Global Mining and Metallurgy at SNC-Lavalin. Mr. Feroz Ashraf has been an instrumental force in expanding the global reach of the company. He has diverse experience in the field of mining and metallurgy, chemical, petrochemical, heavy and light industrial, and the energy sector. The panel will address opportunities, challenges, and recommendations for Pakistan's mining sector. After the brief report, audience members will get an opportunity to ask questions. Thank you, and I will pass. I will now allow Ms. Javed to continue.
You can sit there.
Oh.
You can do it here.
Okay, we'll proceed with the reports then.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's a pleasure for me to be here, so let me just say a few words about myself. I'm also of Pakistan origin, born there, been in Canada for almost 35 years, and had a great opportunity recently. I've been to Pakistan on various occasions, but this time to really formally be part of this delegation. And I must say that I was very happy to be visiting Pakistan again and meeting with everybody else, and a pleasure to be here to share my views. Just a few words about myself and the company. You know, as a company, we are a Canadian company and 33,000 people worldwide in mining and metals. We do projects around the world. And so today is nothing about SNC, it's just about me giving some perspective of the views in Pakistan. So I do have the presentation. If you have that, will help me guide through the presentation. So the first statement is really the disclaimer, the forward-looking statements. This is normal, and the more important one is the safety and we care statements. So hope that everybody who is here sort of look after, and the safety exits are here, safety exits on this side of the door, and in case of any emergency, we are all going to make sure that we are safe and sound. So the mineral sector in Pakistan is what we'll focus on. If you look at it, tremendous, look at the geography of Pakistan today, where it is geographically located. It is located between China, India, and Afghanistan on one side, and other borders and so on and so forth. It is ideally located. And if you look at the locations of particularly the mining sector, the two most important countries that are considered as part of the BRIC development or the mineral sector, commodity sector development, you know, Brazil, Russia, India, China. India and China are not far away. People are exporting commodities from all around the world. They are right neighboring countries to Pakistan. So I know that Marine and Steve are going to speak a little bit more about the geopolitical situation and so on and so forth. But you know, the question really comes in. Country is well located, geography is well there, business opportunities exist. Why is it that the mineral sector in Pakistan continues to be an underdeveloped sector? So there are many reasons for that, and again, there is not a single answer for it. It's a historical reason for it. And but one must look at what are the examples of the mineral development that has taken place. So if you go to the next page, well, Balochistan, and I think, Steve, you're going to talk about the whole Tethyan copper belt and gold belt that is surrounding Balochistan and other places. Well, there have been some good international development. Tethyan copper is one of them, but you know, this project is under review at the moment, under dispute, under discussions, under various stages of discussions, and we're hoping that this project will sort of move forward the way it should move forward. Then there are a couple of other projects. And there's, of course, the Chinese contracting firm has been operating in Sendik mining, just very close to what is called the Chagai district over there. And again, they are operating, but they have been operating in what I would call basic mining methods, not sort of necessarily world-scale mining methods. And of course, Punjab is a very industrial province of Pakistan. Has got many sort of a few foreign companies are working there. It's got iron ore, coal, and other mineral resources. And of course, if you look at all the other KPK and other sort of special districts, there are many developments taking place. Even the province of Sindh, which is not necessarily even thought about the fact that there would be mining, and that there's a huge amount, and I'll come down and explain to you the coal deposit that exists. So if you move down to the Punjab sector, what was my impression? The impression was the lots of mineral deposits, but not enough development, not enough. And people mistake between what is called artisanal mining of gemstones, of limestones, of marble, versus what I would like to say world-class mining. Sendik is operating as mining, but I got more details about Sendik, and I'm not going to offer my opinions about that, but it's what I would say they are basically doing basic mining methods. So in today's world, if you have a world-class product, you got to have a world-class technology, and you got to have world-class players, and you got to have semi-world-class operations to sort of really make it successful, and to really sort of, because nothing is local economy. Everything is becoming a global economy. And that is one of the issues that I would like you to remember. If you come down to Punjab, good infrastructure. So compared to Balochistan, good infrastructure. Everywhere there are opportunities for roads. If there are no roads, the government of Pakistan, the local Punjab government are keen to develop infrastructure. There is some power shortage, but other things. There are still so many iron deposits in Miabari, Chiro, Chinyot, and other locations, but yet it continues to not get off the ground. So that's my view of Punjab. If you came down to the next page, and if you really sort of look at the coal deposits, and if you look at the millions of tons of coal that exist all over Pakistan, and if you look at Sindh, over 160 billion tons of coal. I mean, that amount of coal is more coal than some of the largest coal reserves that exist anywhere in the world. And if you look at the quality of coal and lignite that exists, it's a good quality. It's not an anthracite, high calorific value coal, but it is still a very good lignite quality coal. Pakistan is short of about 3,000, 5,000 megawatts of power, importing oil, foreign exchange drain. Why not develop coal power plants? So where there are coal facilities, there is no power requirement. Where there's power requirements, coal is away. So it's the mining methods, it's the infrastructure, it's the communication, and so on and so forth. So not going to take too much time because the intent is to sort of just give you an overview and open up for discussion. So there is world-scale deposits. And I know, and I've analyzed a number of geological data of many of these things over there. I can tell you, those deposits are better deposits than some of the world-scale mining projects we are doing right now in Panama. We are doing it in Chile. We are doing it in other parts of the world. Those are multi-billion-dollar projects. So if there are world-scale deposits, how come there are no world-scale projects? There is market. So it's not only so that the market is not there. People are developing copper in Chile and shipping all the way to China. We are not talking about just across the border, if you want to call it. And yet, India is there. We do understand the geopolitical issues, but there is a great amount of desire and dialogue going on between trade between India and Pakistan, and I think that will get untangled and the communication will go better. So India and Pakistan will have bilateral trade, hopefully good for both nations. And again with China, tremendous amount of opportunities there. Afghanistan is where Steve is going to speak a lot about that one. Landlocked country. Now I'm going to make a statement and I'm probably going to take a little bit of a thunder away, not thunder away from Mary's speech, but look at what Afghanistan was, is, in compared to mining. Today I would say Afghanistan is a couple of years ahead. I don't want to say more, but a couple of years ahead in terms of development comprehensive plan. And they don't have much. They have the same level of talent or perhaps less level of talent. And Pakistan has got enough technical resources. So there is resources, there is brain power, but there's lack of systems and process and focus in my mind. And the focus is that there are foreign companies in Pakistan. If you look at Pakistan, and I went and visited many banks, local banks, Pakistani banks and other banks, and there are every single foreign company, Procter & Gamble, down to everybody else, to so on and so forth is there, but nobody in the mining sector. And if you compare and ask yourself another fundamental question, Africa, same problem, political problem, world-class deposit, infrastructure issue, lack of investment, yet there is a lot of mining development taking place. You look at Chile 20 years ago, nothing there, yet a lot of development. So the question then comes in, what is this bottleneck? In my mind, I really cannot put a finger on one particular systematic issue, but I would say perhaps there's been a lot of focus on gas development, oil development, other development, not enough focus on mining development. I had a sense that the government of Pakistan and all the local provinces are taking keen interest in mining sector, so there's now focus there. There's also not enough communication, and this forum helps in the communication process. So people should understand that there are opportunities. And of course, there's also a thing called herd instinct. If one goes, everybody goes. So there is a few good examples of mining to start, And I think if it starts, it's going to have tremendous opportunity. So there is a huge, in my mind, the deposit exists. It ain't going to go away. Market will be there. If the socio-economic political landscape can be shaped out, the financing sectors, I met with a lot of people that are interested to invest in Pakistan locally. The government is willing to sort of encourage investment, and we just need to make sure that there is a right amount of opportunity to do that. And Canada, Toronto, has been the largest source. In fact, if you look at the new IPOs and all that, 60% plus of IPOs around the world are TMX listed. A lot of foreign companies are based in Canada, so I think Canada can play a very important role. And Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce in this dialogue and other dialogue can play an important role in the mineral sector development of Pakistan, which would be mutually benefit for Canada and Pakistan. So with that, I will sort of sit down and let the other panelists give their views, and then we will open for discussion. Thank you very much.
Steve Vaughan will now make his presentation.
Thank you. This is a copy of my paper, and what I'd like to, a couple of things I'd like to say. I was told once that the definition of an expert is a lawyer from Toronto that shows up with a PowerPoint presentation. That's the definition, so I couldn't do that, but I want you to know I don't have a PowerPoint presentation and I'm not an expert. I have put this paper together from a perspective of being a geologist. I am a geologist. I'm a former professional geologist. I just happen to be a lawyer. That's how I make my daily bread. There's more opportunity in making your daily bread being a lawyer than there is being a geologist. So we're talking about opportunities here. I just briefly want to tell you that Pakistan has an enormous mineral endowment. The mineral endowment is so outstanding relative to every country that I've ever been in, and I've been in 65 countries on mining transactions, that really I always thought that
Steve, sorry, I'm not sure if your mic is on or if you come closer. Is it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
thank you. I'm not sure whether the government of Pakistan and the people of Pakistan understand it, but I have gotten into this from a geologic point of view, and I understand it has an incredible mineral endowment. And I'm in this, if you look at this paper in one of the later slides, I'll just tell you how good it is. Pakistan happens to be endowed with great geology, and if you look at this map, if you could, it just so happens that along this whole frontier, exactly along the border with Afghanistan, is the thing known as the Tethyan copper belt. And if there's a commodity that one wants to be in that has a big market and a high price, it's copper, because it's one of the fundamental commodities that nations need to build their economy. All electricity gets transported on copper. Cars have 46 pounds of copper in them. Copper is the thing that you need for virtually everything the humans do to increase their economy and to raise their standard of living contain copper. It's just been recently discovered that copper kills bacteria, fungus, and molds on contact. Nobody knew that about copper. So recently, copper markets have increased by maybe 15 to 20% because we're now prescribing copper in all hospitals, on handrails, on doorknobs, everywhere. It's now going to copper because it kills the bacteria. So copper is a really great commodity, and Pakistan is endowed with major deposits all along the border, and particularly in Balochistan, but right up to the north of Pakistan. So let's just flip to the next page, and what I really want to say, that most of Pakistan has not been geologically studied in any great detail, particularly by modern systematic exploration and modern technologies. Neighboring Afghanistan has recently discovered $1 trillion plus, and the number is really bigger than that. That's the minimum amount of mineral commodities that have been discovered by the United States Department of Defense Strategic Task Force in Afghanistan. This is by use of satellite data. And I was involved in that program for the last 3 or 4 years, and I know that this figure is a minimal figure. It's really more than that. But the people that did the satellite imagery, who I've been involved with and are clients of mine, believe that Pakistan, which has the same geology, is 3 to 5 times as much mineral commodities along the border states and Afghanistan. And if you put it in perspective, to give you an idea, there is more copper in Afghanistan than there is in Chile and Peru together. So it is a huge, huge mineral endowment that can be used to kickstart or restart or enlarge the Pakistan economy. So basically, this Tethyan copper belt has been known for years, and it does exactly run along that border area. Now, I differ from Feroz in one thing. The deposits are known geologically as porphyry coppers.
Yeah.
They are large tonnage deposits, massive deposits, but they are relatively low grade. And you have to have the technology to develop them properly, and you have to be big mining methods, big equipment, massive tonnages, because you don't make your money on the quality of the project, you make your money on volume. And what people do not understand is that roughly 1/3 of the cost of every pound of metal, no matter what type it is involved, is the transportation cost of moving that commodity from underground to the surface, through the plant, to the smelter, to the refinery, and then to world markets. So 1/3 of the cost, roughly, is transportation. And everything in real estate is location, 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 and Pakistan has location, 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 because the big market is India, China, and the Asian nations, because that's where the smelters are all located. So, for a number of reasons, Pakistan has what it really takes, but the deposits have never been developed. So, if you flip to the next page of this, I just want to give you an idea of the economic effects that it could have on the Pakistan economy if these commodities are developed. And Feroz is right, Pakistan has way more than copper deposits. It has everything, most of everything else also, and they're in different provinces. I first got involved in Pakistan 7, 8 years ago, looking at the tar coal fields, but not for coal, for coal bed methane. And let me tell you, the tar coal fields have massive volumes of coal bed methane that could be used for a whole bunch of things. It's also known geologically that there's lots of potable water on the way down, which, as you know, Sindh is, I guess, a semi-desert area, and that water can be used for agricultural purposes and other purposes very easily, and it's just sitting there waiting for somebody to take it. So Pakistan has a great and diversified mineral economy. The World Bank and most economists will tell you that the economic multiplier from the mineral exploration and mine development and mine production industry is way bigger than any other fundamental industry. For instance, the mining industry, for every person you have in a mine around the world, it is estimated that 6 to 8 other jobs are created to supply drilling steel, food, assay labs. All the service industries that support the mineral industry have a great economic multiplier. And if you look at the Reko Diq feasibility study, you will see that it's estimated that to just construct the Reko Diq deposit, and that's not the infrastructure related to it, you're talking about 10,000 people and 3,000 during its operational phase. So this industry really can do wonders for an economy if given the opportunity. The other thing you should know is that the mineral industry jobs are, the mineral industry is the most high-tech industry in the world. We use satellites to provide the basic geologic data to focus in on where we have to do ground and airborne geophysics, because the mineral industry uses computers and satellites. We have mines in Canada where virtually nobody goes underground, and we're mining them. We're running trains now in Australia, 200 cars with no human on board the train. It's all being run by computer to cut the cost, because this is an industry that's, everything is economics. You have to be able to produce pure product at the cheapest possible price to be ahead of the game with everybody else. It's a really capitalistic industry that has a way of spreading a lot of wealth. Now, I point out that Pakistan has the opportunity to produce high-quality commodities at very low cost, because it's necessary to do that to compete in the industry, to compete with your competitors. And Pakistan has it all except its ability to get these mines in production. So one of the things, if you look at the last page, and I'll cease after this, Pakistan really lacks the technical mineral industry knowledge, skills, and capacity to develop its own industry. Quite frankly, there are only 2 countries in the world that have developed a sophisticated, high-tech mineral industry. One is Canada, and the other is Australia. And the Australians really learned their business from us after the end of the Second World War. And that's history, but I'm old enough to remember that. So I point out we have a really leading industry. The mineral industry requires trained manpower, and the mineral industry can train people to be miners, it can train people to be truck drivers, it can train people to do the mechanical type of work. And that's what the Canadian industry does, because the Canadian industry has figured out a couple of things. One is you should always have local partners involved in your projects, because that gives you some degree of political acceptance. And you should also employ as many local people as possible, so that they get some of the economic benefits that are derived from having the deposits in their location. And quite frankly, most Canadian operations around the world are only using 1 or 2 expatriates after the mine gets going, because we want to train local people to run and even manage these projects. It just makes more sense, economic sense, to do that, if no, for other reasons beyond economics. So the Canadian industry has this ability, and we would very much like to get involved in helping Pakistan, as we're getting involved in helping Afghanistan develop its mineral industry. And one of the things that you need to do is improve your transportation infrastructure to transport these commodities, because quite frankly, they should go out logically through the port of Gadar. And that brings me to the issue that Feroz brought up. I originally got interested in Pakistan, not from my experiences years ago with the tar coal fields and coal bed methane, but we realized in trying to develop and help the Afghans develop their mineral industry that the logical thing was for all those Afghan commodities to go out to the world markets was through the port of Gadar. And so I've been trying to talk, and Maureen knows, about developing a transportation corridor from the general Reko-Dik area through Balochistan, direct as short as you can possibly build it, to the port of Gadar and build the infrastructure of the port of Gadar, because it's not only essential that that route be used for the Afghan products who are going to pay for the privilege of transporting it across Pakistan, but the Pakistan mining industry to develop has got to use the same infrastructure corridor. So there's a whole bunch of issues now going on, discussions with the government of Pakistan to see if we can integrate the system. The reality of it is that it's not only going to be a high quality road, because you're going to start out with a road because you need a road through that area to build a slurry pipeline to get the product out of Reko-Dik, but you're going to need it for product coming out of Anak, which is a similar type of deposit, but in Afghanistan. You're going to need that slurry pipeline to develop the rest of the copper industry that can be built in Balochistan. And you're going to not only need a road, but you're going to need a railroad, which you have to integrate into the railroad system in Pakistan. You're going to build an electricity grid to carry power that's got to come probably from Sind tar coal or something. This industry, mining industry, is going to pay for the development of the infrastructure that Pakistan needs to develop its own industry. And it just makes economic sense that it be built to the border of Afghanistan at a convenient spot to integrate the whole thing together. So there is really, really lots of opportunity here for Pakistan and the Pakistan nation to benefit commercially from not only their developing their own mineral industry, but for helping the Afghans transport the commodity. The reason the product has to go out to Gadar as to the world markets is if it's captive only to selling this product to China or Russia, you're not going to get world prices for the commodity. So it's essential that you get access to a deep water port, and Gadar is perfect. It's a real deep water port. It can take big vessels that need to move these commodities to Europe, to the Pacific Rim. So that's the opportunity, and it's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm trying to get myself involved in it because this thing is so natural that it's unbelievable. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Ms. Merin Javed will now make her presentation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I represent Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce, which is a non-profit organization established to promote economic ties between the two countries. I'm going to now speak about the challenges that Pakistan is facing as we speak now, and where we are right now, and what work has been done by Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce to move forward. There are 4 key points that I've identified as the challenges that the country is facing. Number 1 is the national mineral policy, which is quite outdated for this day and age. Number 2 is the capacity building. We have no technical knowledge on developing mines. Number 3 is the lack of training programs for the local people. And finally, the RICO-DIC dispute, which is an international arbitration right now. What has been done and how did this all start? The mining initiative was initially taken by Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce, the Government of Pakistan and the Government of Canada earlier this year. With the assistance of both governments, we at the Chamber were able to bring an 18-member delegation from Pakistan to attend PDAC, which is the largest mining conference in the world. This was an eye-opener for the delegates. It not only helped the delegates understand international mining practices and meet with Canadian companies, but it also started a debate on the need to develop Pakistan's untapped natural resources. Therefore, it was decided by Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce Board that we will form a small working group to continue the work in this sector. The working group is led by Robert Webb, who is the former Senior Trade Commissioner to Pakistan, and it has one member from each province, representation from Geological Survey of Pakistan, Ministry of Petroleum, Natural Resources, legal experts, and consultants. World Bank also participated in our workshop, and since then, with the assistance of World Bank, Pakistan has hosted 2 workshops on capacity building. Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce also took the initiative to prepare a 200-page report on mining, which has been used to develop documents for aid agencies and international investors ever since then. It is extremely essential that we engage with international development partners in order to move forward, just like Afghanistan did. What we see in Pakistan right now is the lack of financial and technical resources, infrastructure, and capacity limitations. Pakistan right now is 3 years behind Afghanistan in mineral development. World Bank assisted Afghanistan with capacity building, and today Afghanistan has 4 major copper mines open for bidding to companies who got through the round 1. Similarly, I would like to talk about Chile. The development in their mining sector started in the mid-80s, and now Chile has 20 international class mines, and Balochistan has a very similar geological setup, so we can expect similar results if we move forward. This will increase the GDP of Pakistan by 1% per mine. The mining working group also made some recommendations to the government of Pakistan in terms of the mineral policy. Ministry of Natural Resources right now is in the process of revising the national mineral policy, which will be submitted shortly to the cabinet for final approval. What is good is that all the provinces that we work with were consulted, and they have all agreed on this policy. So we are very hopeful that this will go through. University of British Columbia and Simon Fraser University will lead an international coalition to help developing countries benefit from their natural resources in environmentally and socially responsible ways. The establishment of the Canadian International Institute for Extractive Industries and Development is funded by a $25 million grant from the Canadian International Development Agency with an aim to share Canadian expertise in extractive industries. This program will offer developing countries best practice knowledge in extractive technology, public policy regulations, health and education, outreach in order to empower the industry, governments and the non-governmental organizations to reduce poverty while protecting the environment. Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce has already started working with the 2 institutions to get support for Pakistan. We're not quite there yet, but we're definitely on the right path to move forward to the next level. And I would also like to talk about RICO-DIC. This is that one question that comes up to me every time I go out to talk about mining. In the past, we refrained from talking about RICO-DIC because of the sensitivity of the issue. But I would like to say one thing, that right now there's a strong willingness from both parties to resolve the matter and move forward. We are hopeful that we will be seeing some positive results in the coming weeks and months, because once this issue is resolved, we can see more foreign direct investment coming into Pakistan, which will create tremendous growth and opportunities in the coming years. And lastly, I would like to talk about my thoughts on the business environment in Pakistan that foreign companies face today. In the past 8 months, I've had the opportunity to speak to many companies, and some share their concerns about the working environment, such as dealing with the government changes and other issues. What I draw from these experiences and prior case studies where companies have gone into Pakistan and have encountered problems, I find one thing common, and that is that none of these companies had strong local partnerships in Pakistan. And this is something that lacked, and they had nobody on the ground to deal with government relations and communications. So I would really emphasize that if there's any consideration doing business with Pakistan, please ensure that you have a very strong local team on the ground to manage relations with local government officials. In some instances, for example, Balochistan, we see a lot of tribal politics and a very different business environment than other parts of the country, where communication and strong relationships with the local tribal leaders is the key to avoid any misunderstandings. This is where the role of Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce comes in. We ensure that we identify a suitable partner for you. If you are thinking about Pakistan, this will really minimize your risk of working there. I will conclude by saying that we at Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce are here to help you. We're one call away. If you have any questions, concerns about Pakistan, feel free to contact myself, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
So we would now like to open up the panel to questions.
You did a good job.
Feroz, you
Yes?
mentioned that you had the opportunity to meet with the provinces during this delegation in Pakistan. And I was wondering if they have any expectations from part of like Canadian companies, or if there are any business opportunities that they have in hand. Could you get a chance to have those discussions with them, and if there are any challenges in that regard within the provinces, comment on those?
So there are, we basically met with the federal government and the Mines and Minerals Department. We also met with Punjab delegation, and we also met with the Sindh Board of Investments and the Sindh Tar Coal Board, Energy Board authorities, and many other people. But the request, there is different expectation in different provinces, first of all. If you look at the Balochistan situation, they're open for business. They want to collaborate. They want to attract business. And they're saying, guide us what to do. We don't know what to do, but we want to do what is good for the people of Balochistan, but it has to be done keeping in mind the sensitivity and the cultural issues locally. That's one. Then, of course, there is Punjab, which is well established. They are saying we have opportunities, perhaps in coal and other sectors. There are immediate market within Punjab and other things for people to come in, and they would like sort of companies to come in and take the opportunities. But they do not have what I call the full opportunity. For example, if they have coal, they are developing some coal mines here and there. But if they're looking at iron ore, once again, go back to basically what Steve was talking about. If you're going to develop iron ore facilities, you need to take a world-class mining expertise and develop a world scale. And the quality of the resource is such that it lends itself to large volume, large tonnage, world scale capacity plants. To give an example, Pakistan is now sort of in other sectors. There was a time when Dawood Hercules used to build a ammonia plant. The first plant they built, I think, was in Darki area and a few other places. They were building 200, 300 tons per day ammonia plant. Nobody's talking about 300,000, 400 tons ammonia plant anymore. They're talking about 2,000 tons per day, 2,500 tons per day ammonia plant. Same is the situation in the mining sector. You cannot be looking at the copper and look at the few little projects here and there and coal development, and you're looking at it and say, well, I want to be selling on a world-class basis. but yet expect the world-class commodity pricing to take place. As far as SIND is concerned, I think the SIND-TAR board, that initiative is very good because it's really sort of putting the whole map together and the focus together. There are about 7 concessions that have been given out already to other companies, and yet they have identified another 8 concessions that is up for bidding purposes, and they are basically saying, if the company is interested, come, we will help you, but to keep the transparency of the process, we have to sort of go out for an open tender process, and we will assist you in getting the good concession. So there is openness. The problem that I see is despite good wishes, despite good intentions, despite everything else, there has to be a concerted effort by everybody from Pakistan, from government to business to mineral departments and the business community. The business communities are not sort of focused on mining. They think of oil, they think of gas, they think of textile, they think of commerce, but they don't think of mining. That's number one. Number two, there's a lot of misinformation. So there's not only communication required, but there is so much misinformation. So when I was reading in the press about mining sector over there, I was horrified, literally horrified, to see information that are being put in the press, good intentions, but misinterpreted. And maybe perhaps if time will allow, I will give an example. And I had a good discussion with one of the senior technical bureaucrats in Pakistan. He said, look at this thousands of kilometers of resources we have, and how come we're not getting value for it, and this is the value we should get. And the differentiation was, there was a confusion between mineral resources, exploratory resources, mineable reserve, economically viable reserve, project reserves, and what is called the investment reserves. Okay, so there is a difference of that. And people need to differentiate and understand and avoid the miscommunication and misinformation. And what I also found was in Pakistan, everybody had opinion about it, and therefore everybody expresses opinions. And when everybody expresses opinions, there's a lot of misinformation that flows through, and the misinformation provides a lot of confusion. So the government is taking a lot of initiative and properly channeling the information. I feel there's a lot of willingness there, but I think it's also up to all the other sectors to bring in proper expertise and bring everybody to sit on the table and develop a plan together of what is called a systematic development plan for economic development of the project. Okay.
I was kind of going to say you went to the government and talked about the systematic development plan, right? But our goal has been, I mean, it's been 20 years or so since we have been, working on it. Nothing has happened. So what has the government told you today that makes you feel that we can move forward in the right direction, taking the company from there? Have they given any guarantees? Have they given some policy changes?
Well, when we were there in having a discussion with Sindh Board of Investments and Tharcoal Energy Board, as well as the Board of Investment in Pakistan, they have identified all the stimulus factors, what is called the special project zones, special economic zones, tax relief zones, financial incentives, government local initiatives, training program. Everything is in paper. It's there. And it's all there. So then the whole question comes in, what's the missing link? And the missing link in my mind is lack of focus and concerted effort is beginning to happen to make it happen. Tharcoal, yes, I saw a lot of concessions happening there, a lot of development, but all of them are in the evaluation stage. I can tell you, to go from the evaluation stage to the production stage, it takes 5 years, 6 years of investment, dedication, work, systematic programs, geological assessments, path forward, infrastructure development, and everybody coming together to make it happen. And that fragmentation of everything to make together to make it happen is not there yet. That's my view. Which means there's a great opportunity to make it happen. I don't know.
And I think that's right. there's something that doesn't work, and it's exactly at that stage. The implementation phase just doesn't work.
You know, there's an energy deficit in Pakistan, and that's a major force, or I feel, leverage point, which should be used and provide that opportunity with the black coal, particularly with the coal, the clean coal technology that's there and all that.
Well, one of the issues is a thing called the World Bank. For major projects like this, you need their support, because you cannot fund a mining project anywhere in the world. Commercial banks will not lend you the money. You really need to have 3 or 4. These deposits, the copper deposits in Pakistan, will need 3 or 4 major mining companies coming together, big companies that have lots of money to do these projects, because you have to have World Bank financing, because they're the guys that provide the guarantees to the commercial bank that will loan the money. So what happens, the World Bank will not fund thermal power plants because the pollution effect of coal. They just say no money for coal-fired thermal. Now, it is stupid. Let me tell you, that is dumb. But you're dealing with a bureaucracy at the World Bank that's dumb. I mean, if you've got the coal sitting where you need the power and you're not using it, you're stupid. So now Pakistan has to figure out how they're going to fund the thermal plant.
India's done it, India's done it with the Tata. I mean, they've got all those major coal plants that are coming down, right? So they must have had financing.
Who?
India. In Gujarat and all.
No, they're funding them themselves. That's the problem. Absolutely. And China, believe it or not, look at the 5-year plan of China. 1 new thermal power plant a week is coming into production. 1 new thermal power plant a week. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely true. 52 weeks in the year, 52 new thermal power plants. China has dirty, low-grade coal. Everybody knows it. China imports most of its quality coal, and blends it because their coal is such bad quality. But they're funding it themselves. No World Bank help there. So it's a difference, because the Pakistani economy doesn't have enough money to fund this, nor does it have the technology to build the thermal plant. And quite frankly, there's a lot of work being done around in the world of making, filters and all kinds of things that you can use to reduce the carbon content that's emitting from the plant. So the technology is evolving, but the World Bank doesn't seem to understand that. That's one of the reasons.
Okay. I was just wondering if Marian wanted to add anything else to that, or if we can proceed with.
We are working with World Bank right now. The good part is that they have shown interest in Pakistan, the way they helped Afghanistan move forward. They have come into Pakistan, and they're working very closely with the organization to work at least on the capacity building side and take Pakistan to the next level.
Okay. The next question over there, please.
Just a comment on Steve's point. I don't think the mining industry, and I speak coming from the mining industry, I don't think the mining industry needs state assistance in raising capital to fund its growth. Mining companies know how the capital markets work. They know how to tap those capital markets worldwide to get their money to do the work. What you have to give the mining company is, first of all, safety for their employees when they go in, define, scope out the project, see what it looks like. Number one, I mean, people are just not going to go if they feel that they're going to be threatened. Secondly, the company needs rule of law, that once they find this project and they get it going, that is going to be theirs, that they can then work within the government and with the community to build something that works for everyone. Environmental laws, production, and power generation, etc. And they need, it's a little bit technical, but they need mining rules that they understand. Steve, you know this here. You come from that world. They need rules that they know what's going to happen. Now, I point out to you that the country of Colombia was 10 years ago was in very difficult circumstances, and not that different from Pakistan, and that they had the drug cartels running wild in the outback. They had the FARC rebels that were lawless running in the country. They had to get that under control, and they had to bring in industry to show a stable environment in which mining companies could come in and bring the capital markets with them. And they've been very successful. I think it's a good model to look at as to how you solve some of those basic issues of safety and rule of law, etc.
So, as I was asking in my presentation, and I wanted to conclude by saying that if I were to compare all the technical, geopolitical, other scenarios and compare it with the mining investment that is taking place in Mongolia down to Colombia, we are active in Colombia, Peru, other parts of Latin America down to Southeast Asia, and what is the single biggest differentiator is the security element. And I'm saying, I went to Colombia in '96, and I never had the guts to go back to Colombia for at least 14 years. And when I was asked to go back in 2011, I had so much perception about Colombia of my first visit, and that I never. But when I went there, I was pleasantly surprised to see that I could actually walk on the street without feeling paranoid. So security is, in my mind, something that the government of Pakistan and the international community needs to address. That's number one. The number two is interpretation of the law. And I have looked at it very, very seriously, and I think I'm going to leave some comments to Steve from a legal perspective. I think what people are looking for is reliability more than the law, because the law exists. It's very basic, but it's not a developed economy. So it is subject to interpretation, like we had subject to interpretation in Peru. Peru has the environmental assessment law, which is subject to interpretation. Colombians are challenging each other on the interpretations and so on and so forth. So the government of Pakistan, government of Balochistan, and all the Sindh bureaucracy, they need to understand and get on this common platform of interpretation. They need to have what is called a proven track record that now they have on the gas and oil fields and development areas. They need to do that. Otherwise, it's subject to misinterpretation, opportunistic interpretation. But nonetheless, it is very, very much required is security, law, clear rules of situation, and making sure that people feel what they see is what they're going to get, and the government is going to support that. And there's not going to be change of interpretations or change of circumstances, whatever the case may be. And if that stability comes in, then I think the mining industries will pour in money. I mean, they're pouring in money in Democratic Republic of Congo. They're putting it in money in Nigeria, Laos, Lagos, everybody else. And so, if these two things happen, I think there will be money will come. But yes, there is some, of course, World Bank and international financing community would help a lot.
I just might add, this gentleman that made the comment, if you look on my constraints, item number 4, security for mining projects and mining personnel needs to be given as expatriate mining professionals whose expertise is needed initially to take a project in Pakistan. You know, if we don't get it, we won't go there. And that's the big problem. Let me go back to this question that you raised about mining companies can finance these things. They know how to do it. Do you know how they finance all the big major mining projects in the world? And I've been involved in a couple of them. I can tell you how they finance it. And you need 3 or 4 major mining companies, and I'll use Antamina as a case in point.
Yep.
$2.2 billion project way at the very top of the Andes Mountains. It took 3 or 4 major mining companies to come together because the bankers wanted to make sure the technical ability was there to develop this complex project that needed a slurry pipeline that went, I don't know how many miles, but many, many miles. So, how the mining companies finance this, and it took 3 of them or 4 of them to get together to do it, is what you do is you go to 3 or 4 smelters around the world that have grade A credit, and you forward sell the commodity, and you get a sovereign guarantee from Mitsubishi or Sumitomo or Korea Resource Corporation or one of the major smelters that has credit, and then you take that credit and you set up a take-or-pay contract where they either take the product when it's delivered or they pay for it regardless, and then you take that sovereign guarantee that they'll take the product at the market price, and then you go to the commercial banks and you get them to loan on the basis of the contract. That's the security for any kind of loans, and it's the same thing with the World Bank. The World Bank won't fund projects unless they see the offtake contract. Now, I hate to mention Reko Diq, but the problem with the major problem with Reko Diq was Balochistan insisted that a smelter be built. Okay, and yet nobody will build a smelter because when I came back from Pakistan, I spent 3 days on the phone solid talking to everybody that had ever built a smelter. Will you build a smelter? Can we finance the building of a smelter? Because I said, shit, that's easy. If I can get somebody to build a smelter, maybe the people of Balochistan will be happy. I found out that nobody will fund a smelter anywhere in the world right now. Nobody. You can't raise any money to finance a smelter because all the smelters in the Pacific Rim are losing money. They're losing money. They're not making any profit. And there's smelters that's sitting around going half used because they can't get the concentrates they need. Smelter TCs and RCs for smelters are going south right now. So if you can't find a smelter, Balochistan can keep demanding a smelter all they want. It ain't going to happen. So it's what I'm saying to you. There's a mental gap in this whole thing that politicians and people in Pakistan don't get. You know, you have to ship that product off to one of the Japanese or Korean smelters that have grade A credit, because otherwise you're not going to be able to finance the mine, let alone finance the smelter. And it's that simple. Nothing complex about it. I know you can't finance a smelter. I know that. Not possible.
Was that the reason that there was the contention because the Balochistan wanted to build a smelter, or there's some other government?
I can get it. That one is a very complex issue of a lot of misunderstanding, misinformation, expectation, etc., etc. So, but sort of speaking generally about it, I think smelter was one aspect of it, among others. The question that you raise about companies is also the question, while 3 or 4 companies get together, it's because of risk sharing. And even though there are large mining companies, the way they develop the project is they say, what do we have in our portfolio today? So every company looks at it and says, I have opportunity A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And I can tell you, most of the companies have got enough opportunities on their thing from a mining perspective. The question is, which is the best one, is where they're going to put in the first money in. So they go in what is called ranking of the projects, and they want to invest in project A, B, and C, and they are investing in A, B, and C immediate. They invest in C, D, and F later on. Then they keep LM and OP for future. So the question really is, when there is a security risk, when there is uncertainty of rules, and the uncertainty of playing ground rules, then no matter how good the economics are, or how much risk sharing you want to do, whether there exists a smelter, where it doesn't exist a smelter, the basic fundamentals of operating a secured plant, because when you're building a mining plant, you're not going there and say, I'm going to dig tomorrow and get out in 24 hours. You're looking at 24, 30, 40 years time cycles. And the mining projects looks about 35 years, 6 years of development. The projects of the world scale we're talking about are looking at 1 billion, 2 billion, 4 billion of investments. So people are looking for security of capital, they're looking at midterm. So in my mind, if the security comes, risk sharing will come, stimulus will come, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and once the economics are there, the ground rules, and fine. In future, after 10 years, maybe there's an opportunity, there could be a smelter that can be justified there. But at the moment, I agree with you that why build a smelter when there is so much excess capacity of smelter there? There are many other ways. In fact, just to digress a little bit, in the Tetian copper belt, the intent of the Balochistan government was to produce end copper product. So there are technologies that you know that exist, which is called heap leach solvent extraction technologies that exist, that can make end copper product. You don't have to build a smelter only to build the end product copper. There are other ways of reaching the end goals of what you need to do. This is where the dialogue and the openness of what is available and lack of technical base that exists that needs to be addressed.
I'll comment on something. I worked for a junior company out of Vancouver. We were selected to go and participate in a bid in Afghanistan, Kabul. And I mean, the opportunities are there. We recognize we're explorers. We have the knowledge, like you mentioned, Canada and Australia, we're the global leaders in the mining industry. We know how to explore. We know how to find deposits. But our problem, like the gentleman mentioned here, I'm from Pakistan. I'm from the northwestern part of the country. Even myself, I am not really comfortable putting my investors' money in that area because I don't know 5 years from now, which at least it will take me to find a deposit, if I will be able to hang on to my deposit there at all or not. That's the major concern, as we all know, and I guess that's the only thing we can probably bring to the government and the policymakers in Pakistan, unless there is a secure environment and a prolonged secure environment. I mean, we know the economic problem. Why there's a problem is because of the political, what we call it, for lack of a better word, the political fights. The Balochis are saying this, we don't agree with the previous government. Well, I mean, that doesn't bring in confidence. That doesn't bring in people like us to go invest. I have choice to invest in Canada, Yukon, Saskatchewan, in Mexico, in Colombia, and other places for the same commodities. Why would I go to Pakistan, invest, and realize 10 years from now, by the way, I'm not going to own the deposit? So unless there is that security developed, I don't think there will be any junior companies who are usually funded by investors, and investors would like to put money in places where they're safe. So that's what I couple of comments.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. This isn't like the oil business where you drill a hole and you have instant tea. You can 6 weeks later you're in production and the money's starting to flow in. The mining business is a long 35-year or 30-year cycle. It takes you now from the time the point of discovery to putting any mine in production is like at least 7 to 10, 12 years. And for the bigger ones, it's a lot longer because of all the regulatory hurdles you have to go through. But when you're doing your economics, you want security of tenure. You want to know that the tax laws aren't going to change, that the royalty rates aren't going to change, that the environmental standards aren't going to change. You have to have stability because you make your whole mathematical calculations at the end of the day that you can make money doing this. Because you never get back until you've paid back for the whole capital cost you put in it. So you have to get in production. You have to have 5 or 7 years of production to pay back all the money you borrowed and put in before you make a penny.
The average
So
mining life is about 15 years, you're saying
Yeah.
about that. So you need at least some security.
yeah, you need the stability. That's what you need: political stability, and you need security and safety and all of those things. But you can't be changing the game, and governments can't be every 5 minutes wanting more and more, and because it just will kill your economics. So you're right. People look like you have and come to the conclusion, hey, there's better places, better projects than going to Pakistan.
Yeah, but my current conclusion is, and it's only a on-the-spot assessment, there is a very, very high level of openness at all levels that I met, and I can only base my conclusion on who I met, that there is a high level of openness for dialogue, for solutions, for sitting and understanding the issue. And which is why our company continues to be cautiously optimistic, to continue to put the efforts in, because I think that in months to come or years to come perhaps, there would be a convergence of realization that it has to be done in the best interest of the country. And fundamental issues like security, political stability, and others are the benchmark that will happen, and the rest will follow. And I will only conclude by saying that about 8 years ago, and some of my colleagues are sitting here, we've just finished building one of the largest, most complex nickel mine in the world, Mbatavi project in Madagascar, which is in a startup mode right now. And I can tell you, when I first visited Mbatavi project, I could not imagine the technical challenge that exists. Everything was missing. Everything. I mean, like in Pakistan, you can say you have something. Maybe it's not enough, but there was nothing, right? In Madagascar, the only thing that existed was the mine or the resources. And yet, a multi-billion-dollar, $6 billion project has been built with the training of 26,000 Malagasy people. So there were 17,000 Malagasy construction people working on the site at any given point in time, in addition to 3,000 foreign workers. People could not differentiate between piping, guy who does the piping versus plumbing, the guy who's done electricity in the home versus doing electrical wiring for a complex major projects. But we trained a lot of people, so that is doable. I think there's a lot of resilience in Pakistan and Balochistan, and there can be good, I would say, shovel drivers, earth movers, truck drivers, and everything else. If you look at the way they drive with so much courage, a little bit of training can put all of them back in good business. The security and the base of what you're going to operate in has to come first.
There's an opportunity. Go ahead.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity there. You see that.
If we could just give a word to the council, please.
Could you come on the podium?
It was very enlightening for me, and I'm not a miner or anything. But to your fundamental questions, some of the fundamental questions that have been raised here, and the one that I want to address is changing the rules of the game. Are the rules of the game going to be changed, say, in 10 years or 15 years? To understand, you have to understand that Pakistan had a constitutional leapfrogging moment. A leap. And this year is 2006 and 2007. So anything that you did before 2006 and 2007 was done in a different political, social environment. And the difference was that the people of Pakistan got out into the streets to restore a judiciary. And that judiciary is probably now, if you look at it in a short-sighted way, creating problems by its interpretation of previous rules and previous agreements. But now the moment has gone. So you have a consensus now on Pakistan's political system, the role of an independent judiciary. The past 4 years have been very complex. People had a lot of questions, but you're starting to live with a modern Western-like judiciary which would interpret laws, and a very vibrant media. So that moment has gone. It is not likely to be reversed anymore. Of course, you will have to come to your own conclusions. That is my independent assessment. That the rules of the game, the interpretations are not going to change. Pakistan is going to slither along the democratic constitutional road now. There's no going back. Regarding security, every day 4 or 5 of great Canadians get visas who go especially into Balochistan. Sometimes I ask them questions, are you going to be okay? I give them my email address. Akbar gives them his email address to report back to us, because there are some things which we don't know. 99% of cases, they come back with the happiest of memories. They've gone into Balochistan. Marine said something, Firoz said something about a local partner. In security, in dealing with the morass of Pakistan, and in its legal, in the legal framework, you need a local partner. Local partners understand exactly what to do. So I just want to tell you that moment has gone of uncertainty, the yo-yo syndrome of Pakistan's constitutional development. The rules of the game are probably going to remain.
Okay, thank you, Consul. Oh yes, the table over here, please. Ali, is it?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, fascinating presentation. But given that we're talking about the need for predictability and legal safeguards, I just thought I would hazard the question as to whether the government of Pakistan is considering the possibility of actually pursuing the bilateral investment treaty with Canada. And I say this because obviously Pakistan is familiar with these legal instruments. They're the first country that ever signed on to these types of commitments with Germany in, I believe, 1959. And currently there are negotiations that are going on between Pakistan and the United States. So I was wondering whether Pakistan actually endorses that approach and would want to get the ball rolling. But of course, even if Pakistan wanted to do that, there's also the Canadian side of things, and as everyone here knows, the Canadian government can be quite sluggish and needs all the encouragement they can get as well. So whether SNC-Lavalin and other Canadian companies would be willing to put pressure on the Canadian government to actually negotiate such a
Thank you. Pakistan right now is negotiating the investment protection agreement with Canada. We've had 2 rounds already. The last one was on 30th May. And it's at the legals right now, and they are talking about it. So we're going to see some results on it very soon. And we're hoping we'll sign it off on the 3rd round.
Something a lot of the issues that there was also pointed out about the Chief Justice and all those things. What I think one needs to understand is that public pressure that is building now in Pakistan is now also major force. And that has become much more important than it was 10 years or 15 years back. So there is a lot of transparency that is required also for the public, because once you bring the public over onto your idea and on your platform, that's where political people have pressure to continue doing what they're doing. I think that should be a major focus for this, dialogue. That the public, there should be transparency. You should be, communicating with the public over there on these dialogues, because I think you have assessment processes for policy plan and everything,
yes,
and all of them include this public participation.
We are consulting all the stakeholders, and especially if you're talking about an area like Balochistan, public plays a very important role, and we are talking to tribal leaders. So we have engaged pretty much everybody, every person that is involved in mining in every province of the country, and that has been a very successful step that we have taken in the last 8 months, because this kind of engagement, dialogue, relationship building never happened in Pakistan prior to this. having everyone on the table discussing the national mineral policy was quite challenging, but at least we came out with something where there is a common understanding and common agreement on certain things. So if we continue to play that role and we have the support from the stakeholders, the local community, I think we are definitely heading in the right direction, because we've seen our neighboring country, Afghanistan, coming this far. And when people talk to me about security, my first question is, well, Pakistan can't be worse than Afghanistan. And in terms of security, foreign companies have operated in Pakistan. Let's talk about Barrigold. And SNC has been on the ground for 7 years, and they've never had security problems. If you take the proper precautions, you have the local tribal leaders, the military giving you the support, the security, you operate fine in the area. So I don't think we've had any incident in the past with any of your colleagues as well having security concerns.
Okay. Any further questions? I think maybe we'll give time for another one or two, perhaps. Or
Yeah.
Okay. Any follow-ups or any sorts of comments? Okay. Well, the panel will be here. So please continue enjoying your meal if you haven't already finished it. I don't know if we want to wrap up at this point or. Yeah. Okay. So on behalf of the Canada-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank our guests, our panelists here. I would like to thank Steve Vaughan, Mirin Javed, and Mr. Feroz Ashraf. Thank you. And if you have any sorts of questions, please feel free to ask our panelists directly yourselves. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
We're right on time. It's 1:15.